Good morning. Welcome again to Morning Devotions, and thank you so much for spending time with us again today. I'm going to be teaching you tonight in the service on the prayer of Jesus in John 17, his prayer for protection and his prayer for sanctification for the believers. This morning, I want to talk to you about a controversial subject, giving. Now, immediately some of you go, oh my goodness, what's he going to talk about? Well, in our reading today, we're confronted with the fact that if Paul had been alive today and preached this in a sermon today, the bloggers would crucify him. Listen to some of the things Paul says in our devotional reading today. 2 Corinthians chapter 8. He said, "Now, brothers, we want you to know about the grace God has given the Macedonian churches. Out of the most severe trial, their overwhelming joy and their extreme poverty welled up in rich generosity. For I testify that they gave as much as they were able and even beyond their ability." Now, if Paul were to preach that in a sermon today, people would say, Paul is exploiting the poor. These poor people don't have anything to give. How can you go and take money from these people? But Paul understood if people are ever going to get out of poverty, they have to learn generosity. And some of you, forgive me, you need to quit listening to the bloggers. You need to quit listening to the wisdom of this world and the attitudes of this world and recognize these are biblical principles. And if people are ever going to get out of poverty, they have to break stinginess and greed off of their life and learn generosity. They have to learn to give to others whose, forgive me, needs are even more than their own. So that's the first thing Paul would get crucified for. The second thing he'd get crucified for, he said, "See that you excel in this grace of giving," verse 7. He said, "I'm not commanding you, but I do want to test the sincerity of your love by comparing it with the earnestness of others." Wow. So Paul says, when people sincerely love, they put their money where their love is. That's right. You put your money where your love is. Now, there are many Christians today that say they love God and they love the work of God and they love lost souls and they love to help the poor and they love. But they don't sow any seed there. There's no giving there. Now again, if Paul were to write these words in the modern world and he were to write a book about it, the bloggers would crucify him. Well, it's not all about giving. No, but it does test the sincerity of our love by comparing it with the earnestness of others. So I want to challenge you today. Number one, learn to be generous. If I was you and I was in a real financial need right now, there's two things I'd focus on generosity with. Building the house of God and helping the poor. I would work on those two things because as I'm faithful and build God's house, God will build my house. And secondly, helping the poor. There's always somebody who has less than you. I want to challenge you today. Generosity is not just about giving in a church service. Generosity is everyday life. Sit down and buy one of your office mates lunch at work today. If you know that you see them and they don't have any food and they didn't have any money to buy something for lunch today, you buy them lunch today. God will bless you for it. Learn generosity. But now there's one thing I want to close with here. Paul is very clear when it comes to giving. First of all, it's done by grace. He said the grace of giving. But secondly, you never give what you don't have. Verse 12, it says, "For if the willingness is there, the gift is acceptable according to what one has, not according to what he does not have." Never give out of debt. Never say, well, I'm going to give on my credit card and then I'll pay it back a little by little. Never give out of debt. God, the Bible says, gives seed to the sower. You only give what he has already given you.